Welcome to Better PR, a podcast by PRSA Sierra Nevada. We focus on PR issues and advancing PR as a profession. Today's episode is brought to you by Adams Hub for Innovation, a professional workplace and entrepreneurship center to help local and regional entrepreneurs to work, learn, and grow. Today, we're back again with Kathie Taylor, APR.
Hey everybody, I'm Kathie Taylor. I am the Chief Marketing Officer for In Plain Sight Marketing in Carson City, Nevada, and I'm the Vice President of Professional Development for the PRSA Sierra Nevada chapter in Reno, Nevada.
And our guest today is Dan Davis.
Hello, Dan Davis, the Public Information Officer with the Carson City School District, former board member of PRSA, and happy to be here today.
So Dan, we wanted to talk to you about, a lot of maybe touching on the process for APR as well as what you do for the school district. Kathie, do you want to start us off with some questions for Dan?
Yeah. So Dan, you got your APR before I did. So I'm interested to learn, what was your APR journey? Why did you do it? And how was it for you?
I think it's been about three and a half years now since I earned that accreditation. It's been a long time goal since I was in college. That's been, since I graduated from college, it's been on my radar as to I need to get this done. And so it's just been a standing goal. And I think it was my wife who kind of threw the gauntlet down and was like, you keep saying you're going to do this, but you're not doing it. And of course, that year was the year I got it. So,
well, when the boss speaks, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So how was it for you? What did you do? Did you do the online class? Did you study on your own? Did you join a group?
I did a little bit of both. I did a lot of the online courses. What I found most helpful were the practice tests, but also just finding a study buddy to work with. I had some great people that we would collaborate with and kind of go over different scenarios and whatnot. And, of course, you have that support from fellow PRSA members that are also trying to achieve a similar goal. Then, you kind of celebrate together when you all earn it. So
how'd you actually go about finding a group or study buddy or things like that nature too?
At the time, there was, I think it's similar to now, PRSA had an accreditation VP that we worked with, and we just had a group of people that would meet together as regularly as they needed to. And we would go over different questions, different ways to develop, study habits and things. Flashcards works really well with me. Like I used a bunch of different flashcards for terminology, for history, for the various elements of the test. So,
did you find with your group that there were people maybe more versed in? I know in my study, I had a study buddy, and he was really well versed in investor relations, which was great for me because I had no idea.
Yeah. Different people bring different skill sets. It's, and even if they don't have those skill sets, you can explore different options together. Like, hey, I'm not as acquainted with this aspect of the test. Let's kind of go over it together, and you kind of learn and grow at the same time. So whether they have that background or not, I think, it's beneficial one way or another.
Talk a little bit about your panel presentation, because what we're learning is that's the scariest part of the whole process for a lot of our applicants.
I found that to be the least intimidating part of the process. And I say that because we have such a great group of individuals here that are APR professionals. And I think when I got in that room, it was like I was with a bunch of old friends, and we were just discussing various aspects that qualified me for the APR. And it was more or less kind of an ongoing conversation of kind of the accomplishments that I've had throughout my career. So it was almost like I said, being with a group of friends that, to discuss various things. I think when you get to that point though, in your career, whether or not you qualify for taking the exam. And it's just kind of getting over that hump of, do I feel like I'm ready to do this? And the APR panel was more or less like encouraging you. Yeah, you're good to go. And we support you and you're going to do great. And, it's not intimidating in that regard. Like they're not checking to see if you're going to make it or not. It's more of a support base, I think.
So really getting prepared for that presentation subsides a lot of the worries. Is there anything that you really would, tout as the thing to really prepare you for a presentation is, aside from, working in this industry and being generally prepared? Did you specifically prepare for your panel presentation?
I think in our profession, public relations, you're always giving presentations. And so I prepared for it just like I would any standard board meeting or, conversation with the CEO or pitch to a editor at one of the news stations. So, I don't know if it's just a professional presentation. I'm trying to think what may have set mine apart or not. I think it's just based on experience and what you bring to the table in terms of your portfolio and career experience.
Did you have formal education in public relations?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the kicker for me. I went to college and graduate with a degree in communications with an emphasis in public relations. I think that helps tremendously. There's a number of. I actually started my college career as a psychology major, and I took a couple different classes. One of them was interpersonal communication that really kind of brought me into the communication realm. And I think I've always had that background of trying to help understand people, where they're coming from. And so it was an easy transition to go into communications for me. I think looking back at my college career, if I were to do things differently, I earned a degree in communications with an emphasis in public relations and a minor in business. But I probably would have double minored with another emphasis in sociology, because with all the marketing and targeting of people and what are they called, the audiences, just being able to understand their perspective and what is in it for them is really kind of an additional benefit. So if I had the chance again, I'd take sociology as another minor. But
did you get the chance to participate in anything like PRSSA or any professional organizations as a student? And how do you think that those can add to a student as they're transitioning out of school? Do they really give you an advantage, or is it kind of just something you do in school?
I'd say definitely it gives you an advantage. I was affiliated with the PRSSA chapter in my college, and it was a great networking tool. I mean, I still have contact with people that I knew and met through PRSSA. I mean, and seeing their careers take off and what they're doing. So it's definitely beneficial to be affiliated in that regard.
And do you feel like there's a new certification called the Certification of the Principles of Public Relations, which is like APR Light? And do you think that doing programs like that, or even approaching your PR before it was done, how did you really view it? And now having the perspective of after doing it, how has it advantaged your career?
When I was in college, I had a really good mentor. She was one of my professors, small business owner. She owned an agency in the town that I went to school at. And she was APR fellow. And so she had been in PRSA for quite some time. Basically kind of set me up as, okay, this is what I need to do to further my career. And so any sort of accreditation or certification you can earn that's recognized by a professional organization is going to warrant you a leg up in any job application and any sort of career field that you're trying to go for, whether it be in communications or not. If you are certified one way or another, and that they know, job seekers know that this person is serious about what they're interested in and qualified to accomplish that.
So as the APR, after having it done, really giving you kind of a springboard, or after having it already done, did you notice a real difference in the quality of work that you could give? Or is it more just now I have achieved this level and I have this certification?
I think it's definitely helped the way I look at things. It's helped the way I plan. It's changed the way I look at public relations. And so take that to note that this will not only give you an extra, resume topic of conversation, but it makes you a better practitioner in communications because it forces you to look at things from many different angles and apply different techniques to principles that we're governed by.
I think that's a great segue. I'd love to talk to you about your role as the PIO at the Carson City School District. When I met you, you were just starting out in that role, and one of your mandates was to create a communications plan for the entire school district. How did you go about approaching that, and then how did your APR help you with that?
Yeah, that's what I found most appealing about this job opportunity was nobody had been doing it before. So I basically had a clean slate coming into the school district as an outside consultant and saying, these are the different strategies and tactics I would apply in this situation. And then I got to go on and apply those. And it's been a wonderful opportunity. Probably, I can't think of many people who in the field of public relations got to come in and build a communications plan from the ground up and go into the whole application process of applying all the different strategies and tactics that were suggested. So it's been a wonderful experience. Like I said, it was almost like I was an outside consultant coming in with an unbiased opinion of, looking at the various elements and making recommendations and applying those. So it's worked out really well, and we've had a lot of great success with the goals that were set and with the measurements we wanted, and we're just kind of chugging along with that.
So what were some of the things that you came into from this outside perspective and saw that this is something that definitely needs to be improved upon, or on the other side of the spectrum, something that's already being done great for the school district specifically?
Mhm. Well, coming in, there was no real plan in general with, what they wanted to achieve in terms of communication with the news media, with the students, with the teachers. And so, kind of the first need that I saw was any internal communication among teachers, students, and all the staff there. One great benefit we had, though, as a superintendent, was basically shouldering the burden of all media relations and is very well spoken. And so I kind of worked with that, and he serves as the main spokesperson for the majority of the stuff. There are rare occasions where I'll step in and be the spokesperson, but ideally I try and incorporate teachers or faculty or staff members as subject matter experts because they know more about the information that is being presented than I would. And to be honest, it's great to have a face that somebody knows. Like you look at various, schools, who do people associate with? It's usually the principal or the teacher. And so they're going to know those faces more than the PIO's face, my face. And so when we do media interviews, I always try and put somebody that is already in contact with those students or parents, and it's worked out pretty well.
How have you managed crisis communications? I know that you carry a pretty full plate at the school district. You do all of the social media, you do all the media planning, the strategic communications, all of those kinds of things. How have you approached any of that, and have you been able to actually implement a crisis plan?
Coming from healthcare, we always had somebody in an on-call capacity because it was a 24/7. If there was an emergency or something, some sort of crisis that came in, usually there was media surrounding it. And so I've been accustomed to serving in that sort of capacity. I still do, in a sense, whether it be snowing at 5 in the morning and we need to delay school or whatnot. I'm always available for those types of calls. Or if we have an unfortunate case where some students get into an accident and are suffering from various injuries or even death, we'll step in and serve in a capacity to communicate as much information as we can as soon as possible and to as many people as we can reach to get that word out. And that's kind of always been my mantra in a crisis situation.
So what are some of the tactics that you guys employ? Because I know that it can be sensitive working with students and being a branch of government as well, or part of a government operation. How do you guys really work through some of those issues, keeping in mind, the complexities of what you're actually dealing with and the sensitivity of having students being communicated upon?
Transparency is key. I mean, anytime we are communicating anything out, we want to give as much information as we can. And granted, there are restrictions with student privacy and other aspects, but we've never really had many issues where we've looked at a situation and told the parent or the student, hey, we need to communicate this out. And we've always had great people to step up that were willing to be an example or take the lead in that regard. I'm sorry, the rest of your question.
I'm just wondering how you would apply those things to other realms, or how would you say to other practitioners that are approaching this field and being like, these are very sensitive issues. What is your process specifically for approaching them? Like the real nitty gritty, the tactics, like what kind of preparing that you guys do for these issues?
As well as maintaining privacy with children and families.
Yeah. It depends on the type of story that we're trying to tell. For example, I like to highlight the good things that are going on with the various students that are doing good things or being recognized for awards or different things. Granted, that's public relations that we're trying to push out as much positive information about a teacher who earned a certain recognition or whatnot. Sometimes we have media inquiries that may not be as positive or reflect well upon the district. And when we get those, that's like I said, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. And usually what happens is those good stories outweigh all the negative stuff that would have come from one bad story. So I don't know if I'm answering the question as well as you would like, or
No, it's all good. What are some of the what's some of the most difficult things that you've had to deal with, and how you actually approach them from a communication standpoint?
I think one of the more difficult situations I've had to deal with the school district was a couple of years ago when they were doing the student walkouts for what was it, gun safety or whatnot. And essentially it was a public campaign nationwide where they wanted all the students to walk out of the schools to voice their opinion against gun violence. Our district, we took a proactive effort in allowing those students to voice their opinion and protest in a common fashion without them leaving the campus. That was our biggest concern, is when anytime a student is not in their seat in school, that's when bad things occur, or people become at risk because parents think that their kids are at school and they're off doing other things. And so we allowed them to make their protest and do a walkout in essence there on the campus at the football field. And we of course worked with the news media to bring them out to meet their needs. And it ended up being a really positive situation. I think whether you were in favor or against that particular type of protest, but it seemed to meet the needs of everybody in that regard. So that was one of the challenges we had, and we were able to work with it. Given the FERPA laws, the student privacy laws, to where some students that were approved or had their media releases signed were able to do those types of interviews and be featured in video coverage. So.
And as you guys approach that problem, I mean, it seems very simple to come up with a more harsh solution and say, like, no, you have to be in your seats, or something that may not go over as well publicly than saying that the school district is not allowing this kind of voice. When you guys got this issue, or when that protest was actually being developed and spread throughout social media, what were you guys thinking? What were you guys like trying to come up with as a medium solution that all parties involved would be happy with the outcome?
As well as managing risk to
Yeah.
the district, to the
Yeah.
students, and so on.
And I think that's what we were looking at is, it's always easier to say, no, you can't do this and just walk away from it. But is that the best thing? And that's what we were looking at. I mean, a number of the principals didn't want it to happen like that. So, or I shouldn't say principals, but a number of administrators were considering, we shouldn't allow this to happen. We should just say, if you leave campus, then you're marked absent. And so we were trying to make it an experience that would be the best outcome for all parties, including, primarily the students, because we didn't want to mark anybody absent and have them leave school and be at risk in that regard. So it was an exercise of their political view or whatever, their opinion. And we felt that it was important for them to be able to express themselves in that regard. So that was a primary thing. And it was just a matter of coming up with a way to make that happen that would be safe and basically, fall in line with the governing aspects of the schools. So
how did you guys really approach people that were against these or the basic plan and saying that we should allow students to do this, but working with those administrators that said, I'm not in favor of this plan? What was the communication like internally? There's a lot of it's something like that we don't really think about is within ourselves. How do we communicate? So what does the school district, getting everybody on the same page can be a huge project. And how did you guys really handle that or approach it?
Well, the neat thing about protest is by not protesting, you're actually showing or indicating your opinion. And so there's a large group of students and faculty members that would walk out during this particular situation. And there's a number of students and faculty that remained inside as their official protest in the opposite direction. Does that make sense? Is that there's internally, there's not really much communication in as far as whether or not you agree with this. We kind of took it as, those people that go the opposite direction of what the statement that was being made, their opinions were also heard.
So everybody got to basically have their voice heard.
Correct.
And it comes down to a lot of ethical issues too, it sounds like, and allowing people to express themselves in a positive way. And, with dealing with mass amounts of people, especially groups of students who want to express themselves as much as they can. Mm-hmm. How do you, these issues of ethics, what is the process for you guys and how it comes down? Is it always like we should be allowing students and faculty and all parties involved to really express themselves? Or what is your guys' process for approaching ethical issues or communications-based ethics?
I think, high schoolers, they're still discovering who they are. Even, some of the other secondary middle schoolers too are still discovering who they are. And, I am of the opinion to encourage anybody to explore, whatever opinions they may have. And those opinions are likely to change too. I mean, I'm a different person from when I was in high school as compared to who I am now. And so we don't want to stifle anybody's freedom of expression, but at the same time, if there are governing rules where they are violating school rules, I mean, that's where we're going to put the stop. And we of course, each situation is unique and different from one another. And, we look at all those in specific purposes.
So what was the coolest or the funnest thing you've ever done? You work with kids. Something fun is going to happen every day.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because when I came on board, I was a little nervous because being the PIO, if succeeded tremendously, then word got out, and then everybody would be calling me, sending me story ideas, and that was my biggest fear, is that the amount of stories coming from people would be far greater than I would be able to cover. And that's still a worry of mine because there's so many good things to be told, so many good stories to be told within the school district. And so initially it was kind of like drinking from the fire hose. I had many people coming out and, oh, you need to cover this, you need to cover this. And I try and cover as many as I can. And I was thinking back, Bethany Drysdale, she's got some children that go to school in our district. And she thought it was interesting that we covered the story about, donuts with dads. And it was just one of those, typical things that happen at an elementary school. And she's like, I just thought, how did we get so much media coverage on something like that? And it's just one of those fun stories that people like to hear. They like to see parents involved with their child's education, even if it is at one specific event. The amount of good that does for that student to know that parent's involved in their school. Hey, my dad was at school, or my dad was here, means a lot to that student. So I try and make those stories well known because that's encouraging for the parents. It's encouraging for the dads to hear that even though I only went that one day, it still meant a lot. It meant the world to my kid that I was there. And so trying to tell all of those stories, I don't have enough room. Part of my communications plan is I put together, I basically said, I don't want to do more. I want to average about 3 stories a week, because if I'm doing more than 3 stories a week, 3 news releases, they're going to cannibalize each other. I'm going to get a call from an editor saying, okay, you gave me 5 stories and I only have room for 1. Which one am I going to run? And so that's part of my strategy is picking the ones that'll work best, that'll get the most play and, most coverage and, effectiveness for each of the schools as well. So
what are some things about those stories that you notice, like, get something really successful, or, feel good stories are always something that are going to go off like donuts and dads, but what are some other things that you've noticed from stories specifically?
I always look at kind of the newsworthiness of a story based on the visual impact. We had a hot air balloon at the high school, and that typically wouldn't be a super newsworthy story, but because it was a hot air balloon, colors, big impact, everybody saw it when they were dropping their kids off. Those types of stories. If there's a visual component, it always gets way more coverage. Anything that's photographically appealing does well on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They all like the social, the photographicability of those images. So
So, Dan, what would you say to people who were interested in becoming a public information officer? How would you tell, say, someone out of school how to prepare themselves for that kind of role?
I think I have a quote in my desk that sits on the wall, and it's from Chief Joseph. He's one of the Native Americans, and it reads, let me see if I can remember this from heart here. It's escaping me now. It reads something to the effect of, to tell the truth takes but only a few words. And I think the component of truth telling and being able to be upfront and honest with any assignment editor, any CEO, any, buddy who is trying to sway you one way or another. I think that's the biggest bad rap that I think PR professionals get, is that we spin the news, or we spin different things. I think the biggest thing to look at and prepare for to be a PIO is, how am I going to tell the truth? And, that's the most important thing, because that's what, news wants to hear, is they want to hear the truth, and not some made up story that's going to make it sound better. And so I think if you can prepare yourself to be honest and own up to any faults or misdeeds that you or your company may have done, and be able to celebrate the good deeds that you or your company are able to do, and follow that, I think that's the best approach.
That's truly poetic. I think that if we could all do that as PR practitioners, communicating the truth is an amazing thing, and the power of it, especially in your shoes, going to so many people, means a lot.
I mean, you think about it, it's called public relations for a reason. And you are essentially managing your relationship with everybody, whether it be an assignment editor or somebody you work with. And the one way to lose the quickest way to lose trust is to lie. And so I think that's where you gain strength, is, and that takes the application of ethics of, we're going to tell the truth first. And we're going to tell you as soon as we can, and we're going to tell it to as many people as we can, as quickly.
So Dan, where can people find your communications plan you wrote for the Carson City School District?
We have a news tab at carsoncityschools.com. And it's right there. It's in the drop-down menu, along with a number of other aspects of noteworthiness of the school district. There's, of course, all of our press releases are there. Any recent news coverage that we have, and strategic plan. The unique thing about the communications plan is the school district has a strategic plan that's a 10-year process. And it kind of coincides with a lot of the strategies and tactics that are associated with that plan as well. So, and actually having a public information officer is one of those tactics. And so just by having me hired was fulfilling one of those tactics in that strategic plan. So,
is there anywhere else that people can find you, or more information about school district itself?
Like I said, our website's a good place to go. I always like to have new followers on our social media sites. If you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, just type in Carson City Schools or Carson City School District. You'll find us there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to Better PR by PRSA Sierra Nevada. Again, this episode has been brought to you by Adams Hub for Innovation, a professional workspace and entrepreneurship center to help local and regional entrepreneurs to work, learn, and grow. Have a good day, everyone.